Hey guys. Whoa, what'd I do? Let's move that the other way. There we go. Hey guys. I'm just gonna give it a couple minutes, wait for a couple more people to join, and then we're gonna start talking about low back health. Today's a big day about breathing, something that I think is undervalued and underaddressed when it comes to pain. Hi babe, my beautiful, lovely wife has joined. She might need a couple of these things. All right. Hey guys, work in progress is back. Hey Kate. Hi babe. So we're gonna be talking about back pain, breathing, creating trunk stability. You'll notice a theme today. It's basically all going to be surrounded around one position, and that's a rib down or expiratory position. There's a lot of talk about flared ribs these days, and it is important, but it incorporates, or it's important when it comes to breathing. So if you can't create trunk stability and breathe at the same time, you're going to have a hard time doing anything that's athletic or difficult for that matter. Hi Kate. Oh, hey guys. So we're going to be going through probably like 10 to 13 things here. It's going to be kind of like last week. A little stretching, a little mobility, a little bit of exercise, nothing too crazy. I know you East Coast people are kind of winding down with your day. Maybe some people are getting off work if that's their thing still, or maybe you've been relaxing and your back's been hurting because you're spending a little too much time on the couch. So, hey butterfly. So let's see. Yeah, it's been about 3 minutes or so. So breathing is basically done. We suck air in because our diaphragm goes down, and this is how we take in oxygen and it goes through our lungs, we push it out, and then our diaphragm goes up. But the diaphragm, if it's held down, because we're holding our breath when we're trying to create stability, creates a lot of intra-abdominal pressure, and this allows our muscles to kind of take it easy. Our abdominals, obliques, spinal stabilizers, those things. And so they take it really easy. And those muscles that I just listed kind of get a little bit weaker. And then we also have this position where we might be in an inspiratory position. I'll try to stand up here. Where our ribs kind of flare out. And when your ribs flare out, it puts a lot of compression on your low back. And because of that, you're more likely to have low back pain if you stay in that position. It makes it very difficult for you to actually take full breaths in because your diaphragm is kind of being stretched out. It's in a weak position. That's something that we can talk about later, but just go with me on this one, that as we're in that ribs flared position, our diaphragm is in a weakened position, and it's going to be harder, one, to take deep breaths in, but two, to create trunk stability, which we need. So there's this one position that we're going to kind of work around today, and it's all based off developmental kinesiology. How do babies learn to move? Okay, so some of you might have seen some of this stuff. Hey guys, I'll try to wave to all you. Hey Steven. So we're going to go over this position. The very first thing we're doing is going to actually be so we can stretch our hip flexors second. You guys know probably by now that I'm a big fan of stretching your hip flexors just because of how much we sit all day. But yeah, it's going to be good to undo that. So we're going to do something first. We're going to talk about, we'll say, proper breathing position for today. This isn't necessarily something you want to take throughout your day, but it is going to be something you want to maybe apply to your exercising. It's something that you can work on if you struggle, that might actually take some of the tension out of your neck, your low back, and your hips if you can do it. So, hey Natalia, hey Gretch. So all you're going to need is a mat and a pillow for today. And we're going to get going here, and we're just going to be going over some very simple breathing mechanics at first, and then we're going to play around with some advancements of that, going through some trunk stability exercises and some hip stretches. So I'm going to pop down here onto the mat, and I'm going to get started here. So actually, I'm going to take my belt off. Trust me, it'll be better for this. Okay, so if you were wearing like a belt, like I just was, I'm just wearing work pants, you're probably going to want to take it off because it will influence the way that your pelvis moves with these exercises. So I got my mat and my pillow here, and we're just going to be talking about this inspiratory and expiratory position. Okay, this inspiratory position, we see people walking around with a sway back, and it's just going to put compression on your low back. And so we want to adjust that. We don't want to be doing our exercises in those positions because it's going to cause more compression on our low back, which causes, theoretically, more pain. So we're going to be down on the mat. Let's see, make sure everybody can see me. Great. And you're going to find this angle where your ribs come together. Okay, that's called your xiphoid process. Okay, it's right where they come together. Then you're going to take your other hand and you're going to find your belly button. And then you're going to go a little bit lower to where maybe your belt buckle will be, and a little bit lower, and you're going to feel a bone. It's called your pubic bone. And if my brother's watching, he's probably going to make some ridiculous joke about this. But you're going to find your pubic bone, you're going to find your xiphoid process, and you're going to bring them closer together. And when you do that, if you have flared ribs, it's going to make you engage your obliques, engage your abdominals, and even some spinal stabilizers where they start coming together, and you're going to hold that. Now you should be able to hold that and breathe. And so that'll create a lot of tension in your abdominal muscles. And we'll call them your abdominal muscles, in your trunk muscles. So you should be able to hold this and make 5 breaths. And when you do it, you should feel like your abdomen is rising and falling. You're not shrugging. Okay, if you're shrugging or if you feel like you have to arch your back, chances are your diaphragm is really struggling, and the muscles of your diaphragm, or 2 lobes of your diaphragm, aren't working efficiently. And so this might be something that you want to just kind of break out throughout your day to break up your sitting or inactivity and do a couple breaths. So we've done about 5. Great. I wasn't shrugging, I wasn't arching my back. I have this ribs down expiratory position. It's called expiratory position because as we exhale forcefully, our ribs should come down. So that's why we give it that name. Now we're going to be building most of the exercises we do today off of that ribs down position, a stable trunk position. We're still going to be moving our limbs around, and we're still going to be stretching out, but we want to be mindful of that position. How are we breathing? And you can always reset that position when you're going, okay? For those who just joined, we're just going over some trunk stability, some breathing stuff, talking about keeping your ribs down while we're exercising. So I really like using our hip flexors before stretching them, telling them when to turn on and turn off. And so this next exercise is going to incorporate what we just talked about as far as positioning, but then we're going to move our legs around a little bit. So you're on your back again. Your legs are actually extended. And if you have really tight hip flexors, it's going to pull you up too. So you might have to fight against that from bringing your ribs down and your pelvis up a little bit. And from here, you're going to lift both legs into a 90-90 position. Now you don't want to lift so far that your butt comes off the mat, but you want to feel your abs, your obliques work, the muscles of your trunk. So we're coming up here, we're using our hip flexors, telling them to turn on, and then our legs go down. And if this is a little hard, and you can't keep your back stable, then you can go from a bent knee position and come up here. And we're just going to go for 3 more. And you shouldn't be pegging your back flat against the ground. We're not looking to flatten our back because that's just another form of flexion. We're just looking to create stability or rigidity in our spine. So we're using our hip flexors. And 1 more. I know I said 3 more and I've done like 5. But. So we've told our hip flexors when to turn on, when to turn off, and we've done it with that stable position. And so I'm going to grab my mat. I'm going to get my knee down. I'm going to tuck my toes under and back for some balance. And then I'm going to tuck my pelvis under and come up. And so I'm stretching the front of my hip, I'm opening it up, I'm undoing all of that flexion that I did throughout my day from sitting, and we're going to hold this a minute. Now I'm squeezing my butt cheek, and if I get really tired or if I cramp in my hamstring, I can kind of relax it, reset, do it again. We want to be mindful of not getting into that inspiratory position, those ribs up position, because of the amount of pressure it's going to put on your low back. For those of you who are maybe a little bit more advanced, maybe you can grab back here, feel a little bit more stretch in your quad or hip flexor. But once again, not getting into that ribs flared position. All right. That's about a minute. So we're going to do the other side. And then just like last week, like we did for the hips and for the back, we're going to be using this range of motion next. So we want to use range of motion after we've stretched. It's not like you just stretch it out and then kind of forget about it and hope it sticks. You have to use your nervous system to get that range of motion to kind of be printed on the map, our movement map that our body knows. And so we say, oh, my brain now says, oh, I can access more hip extension. I can have a more powerful glute contraction. I can open up and maybe stand a little bit taller. Or maybe I can breathe a little bit better. Because we do have connections between our hip flexors and the diaphragm. So we got about 10 seconds left here. And then we're going to lose the pillow. All right. So last week, we did some 90-90 switches. We were on our back, or on our butt. We were kind of dropping our legs side to side. I'm going to tilt the camera down here so maybe you guys can see me a little bit better. There we go. All right. Hey, guys. Okay, so we did 90-90 switches where we're using hip internal and external rotation, because if we lose that, we're going to start to compensate with our low back to try to get rotation where our hips should be doing it. And that our low back doesn't like or isn't built anatomically to produce lots of rotation. This should be happening in our upper back, in our thoracic spine, and in our hips for the most part. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually get down into that hip flexor stretch position. It's called half kneeling. This is tall kneeling. We have half kneeling. And from here, you're going to actually come up. Our hips are rotating. And then we're switching to the other side. So as one hip is going through external rotation, the other is going through internal. And we're just switching. And if you need to keep adjusting your feet, be my guest. If you need to kind of stand up to make that switch, you can also do that. And if these are bothering your knees, or if this bothers your back for some reason, there's always hip circles. All right, so maybe one more on each side. So we're using that hip extension at the end here. We're making hip internal and external rotation to kind of free up a little bit more movement, okay? All right, so we have toe touches. Now, developmentally, as we're babies, we're on our backs a lot. We're developing neck stability, trunk stability, that rib down position. You'll see that newborns typically have pretty flared ribs. And as they start to move around and look around with their reflexes, they start to develop core strength. And from there, one of the first things they're going to start to do at about 3 months is try to touch their toes. And you're going to do that now. So we're going to get back into that ribs down position. We're going to go 90 degrees with our hips and our knees. We're actually going to reach up and try to touch our toes. The whole time, you should be able to breathe and just reach right down the middle. And you're going to make 7 more. You don't want to lose that position, okay? You can't from here really reach up easily and touch your toes if your ribs are flared. So you come down, you get your ribs and your pubic bone closer together, and then you reach up. Okay, so we just did 10 of those. Now, crunches and sit-ups have kind of been demonized. There's always a time and a place for an exercise depending on who is doing it and under what circumstances and what their training goals are. Those keep you in a pretty small range of motion. Your back is stable. You're not going through a massive amount of loaded spinal flexion. It's very minimal and should be coming from the upper body, that thoracic spine, to reach up. And your hips are also going to flex more to come up towards your head. So that's a 3-month-old toe touch. That's right down the middle. And then, as we progress and get older, we start reaching across our body, and it's pretty indicative of a kid who's about 5 or 6 months old. And so we're going to actually go and back down into the position we were in. We're going to have one leg up and one leg down. We're going to reach up and across our body like we would if we were 6 months old. So, if I have, which way will be easier? Here, I'll come towards you. So, I got my right leg up. I'm going to support my neck. You know, we're going to be talking about neck and shoulders on Wednesday, so let's support it, give it some rest here if we can. I'm going to be slightly turned out with my hip. So not just straight out, I'm slightly turned out. Turned out. I'm going to reach up and touch my toes. Now I'm keeping my ribs down, my pelvis up. I'm touching. I'm going to make 8 more and then 10 on the other side. Breathing the whole time. Can't do this well if I'm holding my breath. Working on my obliques, my abdominals, spinal stabilizers, but protecting my neck a little bit. And one more. And I'm going to the other side. So support, switch, turn your leg out a little bit, and touch your toes. For those of you with kids, if you remember back to when they were 6 months old, they were probably doing this, but it looked a little strange. Maybe they had their other toes in their mouth. They're usually a lot more bendy and stretchy than us as adults. Whew. Maybe I need to do a couple more of these and spending too much time on my couch. All right. So, we did 3-month toe touches, and we did 6-month toe touches. And now we're going to kind of progress from that legs up position with the ribs down and pelvis stabilized. And we're going to start rolling, okay? So once we start crossing our body as kids, we start to roll over onto our side, and that's getting us ready to pop up onto our knees and crawl. I'm going to stop you halfway. We're going to go from that 90-90 position to a side plank, okay? We talked about side planks last week. They're amazing at getting your glutes to fire, stabilizing your shoulder, protecting your neck, getting your ribs down, all of this stuff, okay? So we're progressing from that 90-90 position. We're rolling, and we're going up into a side plank. And so as we do this, there's a couple cues we want, like, you know, when we roll onto our hip and we roll onto our shoulder, there's a couple things that need to happen to get us into a good position, so we're safe on both of those. So I'm going to try to talk you through it here. We're going to be making 5 of these on each side. And now if they bother you, all I want you to do is drop down into that short side plank where your knees are bent and you're coming up. Okay? Once again, keeping your ribs down. Keeping our pelvis and our ribs together. Locked together, but you should still be able to breathe. That's the modification. So we're going to go back onto our back. 90-90 position, hands up. It's like we're holding onto one of those big exercise balls, a Swiss ball, physio ball. Head's going to come up. If I'm rolling towards you guys, my hip hits the floor, my elbow hits the floor, and I'm going to go up onto my knee, up onto my forearm, and I'm up here. I'm using my down hip, my down shoulder, and then I'm back onto my back. I roll forward, up onto my hip, knee, and elbow, scoot back. You guys can see me better. Nice and tall, straight neck. 4, and then one more. We're getting strong glutes here, strong abs, keeping our ribs down, because these are the muscles that should be taking on the force of everyday lifting and moving and twisting and carrying, and pushing and pulling. Okay, our glutes, our abs, our pecs, these are the things that should do it. We shouldn't rely passively on the structures of our spine, like our vertebrae, the ligaments or tendons. The things that passively stabilize our spine are usually the pain generators that come along with it. Now, if we're taxing our muscles because of repetitive flexion and extension and rotation, that's a different thing. But if we're just passively relying with this sway back position of ribs up, we're going to start stressing out the facets or the joints. We're going to possibly create some stress fractures. There's arthritis, stenosis, and a whole other list of things that can go wrong with the back. So maybe some of these might help if you're suffering from some low back pain, and if it were caused by one of those things or just by that position. So, you know, that's why I'm doing these things. I think that we can all benefit from knowing how to keep our spines healthy, but sometimes maybe we're suffering from a little bit of pain, and yeah, we need to do some certain things, or maybe need a little bit of guidance. So we're going to do the other side, do like 5 to 8. So heads up, ribs are down, 90-90. As I roll, go up onto my elbow, onto my knee, and I'm up. And now this is a little progression of that side plank we talked about from last week. As I have my legs separated, I'm going to be working on both glutes a little bit more. You do have the option of coming down here. And this is where I want you. You can come down. Kind of using momentum a little bit. I really want you to keep your ribs down. And one more. And that was fun. So we talked through a couple of trunk stability exercises, really developmental positions that we can use to help reinforce our obliques, spinal stabilizers, certain reflexes that we still have within us as adults that have carried over from being babies. I want to do a couple stretches and a couple more, we'll say, glute activation things, and then a couple more stretches to kind of end it here. The first one is, the first stretch, it's called a bretzel. And now the bretzel is a stretch for a pattern. We're stretching rotation. You're going to be stretching your pec, you're going to be stretching your quad, you're going to be stretching your glute. And so you need to start this one on your side. And you're going to bring your knees up to about 90 degrees. So 90 degrees at your hips, roughly 90 degrees at your knees. You're down on your side. From here, I'm going to take my top hand, and I'm going to grab my bottom foot, and I'm going to pull back like I'm in that hip flexor stretch position when I'm laying on my side. Then I'm going to take my bottom hand, and I'm going to take it under my top knee, and I'm going to rest my head and try to roll back. And so you're trying to stay connected to the floor, close to the floor, pulling on my bottom leg to get a nice quad stretch. And I want to be here, just breathing, big nice breaths in through my nose, out through my mouth, or in through my nose, and out through my nose. We're trying to get rotation through your thoracic spine. You know, one of those areas that we should be rotating from, but often don't. We're glued to our computer screens so much throughout the day, or in front of a TV, or in our cars. Everything's in front of us, and we're around it in a big CD. So we gotta feed it some extension into our spine. All right, so we're gonna switch. So you go on your other side. 90 degrees at your hips, 90 at your knees. You're going to take your top hand, grab your bottom foot, pull back. So you should be getting a little quad stretch there. You're going to take your bottom hand, come under your top knee, and then rolling back. And if this is bothering you for any reason, this used to actually make my legs go numb. So if something like that is happening, or if it's just uncomfortable, then you should just pop back up and go into a hip flexor stretch. Something that you know agrees with your body. And I'm trying to roll back a little bit more. Big breaths, rolling back. Trying to touch my top shoulder to the ground behind me. I can make one more big breath. All right, so I'm actually going to stay in this position now that I'm here. I've got my bottom leg kind of behind me. I'm going to shift so my top knee is on the ground though, and I'm just going to support myself. From here, I'm actually going to try to lift my back leg, so I'm squeezing that glute. I should probably turn around so you guys can see this here. So, let's see. So I'm actually kicking back towards you guys. I'm using that bottom glute with my knee bent. So I want you to do 2 or 3 more. You want to make sure that your top knee is bent and it's on the ground and it's up towards your chest. So you're protecting your low back from going into too much extension. If we're not bent in our hip, there's a likelihood that we're going to extend our back, and that's not going to feel good for anybody. Then we're going to go to the other side. Top knee is flexed up towards your chest. Bottom knee is bent. And I'm lifting up here. And if you're cramping in your hamstring, you can straighten your leg and lift. I like bending your knee because it's going to put a little bit more stretch into your hip flexor, into your quad. We're making 5, so I got 3 more on this side. Just waking our glutes up so we can do some bridging here in a second. And 5. Okay. So we're going to do one little test before we do our bridges. And this is going to see, or it's going to kind of see if your glutes have that glute amnesia that we talked about on Friday. I just want to kind of tie this all in. So where our glutes kind of forget what they're doing because we're sitting down all day. We're not using them to propel ourselves forward. We're just kind of in front of our computers, TVs, all that stuff. So you're going to be on your back with your knees underneath, or with your ankles underneath your knees, and you're going to bridge your hips up really high. So I'm down here, get my hips up nice and high. I still have that same expiratory position where ribs are down, pelvis is up. Okay, I'm not in this position. From here, I'm going to extend one leg. I'm just going to hold this for about 15 seconds. Now I want to know, is that my stance leg, so that leg that is behind here, do I feel this in my glute? Do I feel it in my hamstring? Do I feel it in my back? And then down. And so that can tell us a lot. So I felt that in my glute. My left glute's pretty strong. So I felt it in my glute, but if you're feeling that in your hamstring or it's like cramping really hard, it tells you that you don't have a great neural connection, a mind-body connection with that part of your body. And doing single leg bridges isn't probably the best option for you. So when we do bridges here in a second, you're probably going to want to do 2 leg bridges. Then you're going to go on to your other side. You're going to bridge up and extend. And once again, I feel it right in my glute. But you want to hold it to see what happens. Do I stop feeling in my glute? Do I lose the endurance there? Or do I start going into my hamstring? Is it in my quad? Is it in my back? But once again, felt it in my glute. But same thing, if I was cramping, you're going to want to do 2 leg bridges instead of these single leg bridges that are coming up. So we're going to be on our back. We're going to find that position where our pelvis and our ribs are kind of locked together. Okay, it's just a big barrel of our trunk. You're going to bridge up. You want your knees or legs close together. You're going to kick out, stay up, kick out, and then go down. We're going to do 9 more of these, 10 total. So make sure your ribs and your pelvis are in good position. Push up, squeeze your butt together. Some of you might just be going up and down still, and you should do about 20 reps. But if you're kicking, you want just do 10 total. And we want to make sure that we're not getting this movement in our hips and our pelvis as we do this, because we're trying to create stable trunks, okay? We want to create strength and stability through our spine and our hips. We're going to have 5 more. So no movement in those hips. Squeeze your butt with each rep. What's up, guys? Whoever joined, working on our hips to protect our backs, and I think that was 5. Whew. Okay, so that was a bridge with the knee extension. Like I said, if you were getting that cramping with that little test, the little glute bridge test, stick with the 2 leg bridge. Maybe even put your hands on your butt cheeks so you can feel them squeeze a little bit more. It's going to create a better connection. Like you can actually feel the part of your body that you should be squeezing. Okay, you should feel your butt work there, not your hamstrings, although your hamstrings are going to do a little bit of the work. So, all right, we're just going to end with 2 stretches. We did one of them last week. Next one is, the last one that we're going to end with is a little progression of a hip flexor stretch. We can get another muscle in there too, or another 2 muscles with that hip flexor stretch if you want. So you're going to be on your back, hugging behind your knee, active straight leg raise, calf stretch. You're going to pull your toes back toward your head, and you're just going to straighten your legs as much as you can. Let's see how much time we have. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to be going up and down 15 times. You want to make sure your down leg is nice and straight. Might even fire that glute. Trying to get as much glute work as we can with everything that we're doing, okay? We can't, in my opinion, we can't really overwork our glutes. We can do too many reps and things like that, kettlebell swings, but here when we're stretching, working on our mobility, it's worth focusing on your glutes. And we'll go 5 more. And good. All right. And then we're going to switch. And here we're stretching out our calves, which cross above our knee, our hamstrings, which cross below our knee. Maybe, you know, if you're tuning in because you have low back pain, maybe you have some peripheral pain that goes down into your feet or down into the back of your leg, and maybe your sciatic nerve needs a little bit of gliding. That's what we're doing here too. So we're just kind of going until we can't go because our flexibility limits us. Or if you have neural pain, you're probably going to want to stop before that numbness or tingling or burning happens in your leg. So you just kind of, if I were getting that here, I would say a little bit short of it. So I would just be doing these if I got numbness and tingling. But my hamstrings are just tight, so I can go the whole way. And we're just going to do 5 more. One more. All right. Okay, so you're going to want your pillow, if it hurts, to be down on one knee. I'm going to face you guys for this hip flexor stretch. So the position is still here for the hip flexor stretch. You got your knee down, you got one foot in front, my toes are in back for some better balance. You got my ribs down. I'm just going to bring my arm up. So if my right knee is down, my right arm is going up, it's kind of going behind my head. I'm going to grab that with my left arm. I'm going to keep my ribs down. I'm actually going to side bend. And now I'm going to feel a little bit more stretch in my hip flexor. I'll probably start to feel a stretch on my side here because I'm stretching out my lats and my quadratus lumborum, 2 muscles that are on our back and on the side. I might feel a little bit more, but maybe I could get even some more. I'm going to rotate towards my front knee. And so now I'm really feeling a stretch in my lat and my quadratus lumborum, QL for short. And then kind of like squeezing the glute, I'm going to back out of it. Hey guys, I'm going to back out of it after a couple seconds, maybe 5 to 8 seconds. We're just going to be here a minute. Stretching out your lat. Your lat is the biggest surface area of any muscle in your body. Runs from the inside front of your shoulder down to your low back, and even share some fibers down into your glutes and your butt. So it's really important for spinal stability, pulling, and sometimes it can get really tight. If you can't get your arms overhead, it can even contribute to low back pain. So we're going to switch sides. Just put the other knee down, other foot forward, maybe shake out that arm. Other arm's going up and behind your head, and just pulling. Maybe you feel that QL, that lat. This side seems a little looser for me, so I can turn a little bit more. Bend away. There we go. And this is going to be the last stretch of the day. So we're a little bit more active than last week, just because I think that positioning of our ribs and pelvis is pretty important for what we're doing. It should be part of your, the top of your squats, tops of your lunge, pressing, pulling, top of your deadlift, athletic position, all these things will be improved if you work on that position. Because if your trunk is stable, you can create more power with your periphery, your limbs. And we'll call that last one. How'd I do? All right, about 33 minutes or so. So we're going over a lot of stuff with the breathing. We want to make sure that we can create stability in our trunk while still being able to breathe. So all of our muscles can get the benefit of creating trunk stability. If we're just filling our lungs up with air to create that stability, our muscles will just go on vacation. They're going to get weaker. Then your passive structures need to be used, like the joints, the tendons, and the ligaments. And these things don't like bearing too much load unless they have a lot of support from the muscles. So let's see here. I'm going to try to look through some questions if anybody had any. Glutes minor on, yeah. Oh man, hey guys, everybody's here. All right. Well, all right. Looks like I had a lot of people join. Glad that people tuned in. So I'm going to be doing these every week for the time being. I got lots of time. I got my new space that I can't really be using. Patty, you're welcome. And you can always reach out to me via my direct messages. My email address is kineticpotentialpt@gmail.com. You can always get me there. You can go to my website, kineticpotentialpt@gmail.com is my email. Kineticpotentialpt.com is my web address. You can find me there too. I'm putting all of these follow-along videos or links to them on that website. They're also going to YouTube, Instagram TV, all this stuff. Let's see. Right side low back pain, how can we modify this to help? Ooh, that's a tough one to just modify side to side. Yeah, that's a little too specific for me right now. Let's see. How to work on mind-muscle connection. Usually, like with the glute bridge, if you can put your hands on your butts and feel them squeeze, that's a great place to start. Usually touching, so if you have to do things with one side, then putting your hand to do a bicep curl so you can feel the muscle engage a little bit more is usually helpful. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. Find me on Instagram, find me on YouTube, find me on the interweb. Kineticpotentialpt.com will lead you in that direction. Tag your friends, tag your family. Anybody who you think can benefit from this stuff. I love helping you guys. I love answering your questions. This is I've been doing this for 10 years now. Please, like I said, reach out. If you have any questions about these things, I'd be more than happy to help. I do telehealth conferences and consultations. I'm seeing patients remotely still, so if that's something that we need to set up, it would be my pleasure. So like I said, reach out, share. I'm going to get this one posted either tonight or tomorrow. And thank you for joining. And I hope the rest of you have a great evening. And I'll see you on Wednesday for shoulders and necks and Fridays for hips and knees. I'm going to try to combine those things. A lot of people are requesting them. So instead of going 5 days, and I want to respect your time and just try to fit it into 3 still. I know we all have a lot going on. So I will see you guys there. Once again, my name is Mike Scott, Kinetic Potential PT. All right, see you later.